Welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. I'm your host, and today we are putting on our hard hats, rolling up our sleeves, and laying down the ultimate engineering blueprint for your multi-token platform. If you've been following our track on NFTs and decentralized identity, you already know we are deep into the Mastering ERC 1155 course. We've covered the concepts, explored the tools, did some light experimentation, but today is a massive milestone. We're officially kicking off the capstone project. We're taking all that high-level theory and turning it into concrete reality. So grab those metaphorical safety goggles because it is time to build.
In our previous lesson, from metrics to optimization strategy, we did a lot of fine-tuning, right? We looked at gas costs, performance, and system efficiency. But there's a great quote that captures exactly where we are right now. You've optimized your metrics. Now it's time to build the building. And honestly, moving from metrics to architecture, it's really tough. It's one thing to know how fast the car can go. It's totally another to engineer the transmission so the engine doesn't just explode on the highway. Before we write a single line of Solidity code, we have to step back. Because coding without a plan in Web3, it's like trying to build a skyscraper starting with the penthouse. We need a robust floor plan that maps out every single interface, fallback, and operational boundary.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today's explainer. First, going from metrics to architecture. Second, we'll look at the library network metaphor. Third, mapping out core components. Fourth, token lifecycle workflows. And finally, future-proofing. Let's just dive right into step one. Right off the bat, a huge mindset shift needs to happen. Look, we've all been there, right? Slapping a digital Band-Aid on a gas limit issue, just praying it holds, or maybe hastily throwing in a require statement because a test failed. It's super tempting to just patch code as issues pop up. But we have to stop patching and start engineering a truly modular platform. In a live production environment, ad hoc fixes just create this incredibly fragile house of cards. One weird edge case transaction and boom, the whole system comes crashing down. So we're leaving that hacker mindset behind. We are designing modular, composable smart contracts from the ground up, where every single piece has a strictly defined purpose and an isolated blast radius. Now, Web3 architecture gets pretty abstract pretty fast. You're dealing with floating variables and a global state machine. So to make this intuitive, we're going to use a mental model. I want you to think of our entire Web3 platform as a massive, super well-organized public library system. We call this the library network. It's honestly the perfect analogy because it brilliantly separates two completely different concepts: persistent state versus ephemeral logic. The persistent state, that's the actual physical books on the shelves. They're valuable, they need preserving, and they rarely change. The ephemeral logic is the rules: who can check them out, how long they can be kept, what the late fees are. Those rules change all the time, but the books themselves stay exactly the same. So let's map out how our Web3 concepts actually translate to this library. Your ERC 1155 core? That's the token catalog. It just holds the immutable, persistent records of what books exist and who has them. It's totally oblivious to the outside world. The access control module is your extremely strict librarian standing at the door checking credentials. The metadata service? That's the card catalog, describing all the rich details and artwork of the items. And finally, the marketplace adapters act as the circulation desk, handling all those noisy exchanges and trades. By visualizing these as distinct branches of a library, you can instantly see where your trust boundaries need to be. Let's officially define the roles of our staff in this contract responsibility matrix. At the top, the ERC 1155 core just maintains balances and basic transfers. Right below that, the minter and policy module gates the minting rules and verifies cryptographic signatures. Then, access control manages roles, multi-sig admins, and time locks. Just a quick refresher. A multi-sig admin means multiple people literally have to agree and sign off before any big change happens. Kind of like needing 2 keys to launch a missile, right? And a time lock is a mandatory waiting period for upgrades, so your community never gets blindsided by a sudden rule change. We separate this minimal core from those complex policy modules for one very good reason, so our librarian doesn't accidentally burn down the library. Moving to the second half, we get into the external-facing modules that handle the public. The metadata registry stores URIs and validates data schemas so your images actually load properly. Then we have vaults and escrow adapters. Now these hold live tokens, meaning real value, so they require incredibly strict reentrancy guards. Think of a reentrancy guard like a massive digital bouncer at a club. It physically stops a malicious contract from rapidly withdrawing funds over and over in a loop before the ledger even updates. Finally, the marketplace adapter matches orders and settles trades. Notice how these edge components are handling all the complex, highly dangerous operations safely on the perimeter, acting as a secure buffer protecting our core catalog.
So, we've got our library staffed, guarded by digital bouncers, and fully mapped out. But how does a token actually move through this network? What is the journey of a single, newly created asset? Because having a bunch of smart contracts sitting on a blockchain is one thing, choreographing them is another. The absolute crucial point here is understanding the flow of operations across these highly specific modules. Let's trace a token's lifecycle to build some suspense and see exactly what happens behind the scenes when a user excitedly clicks that mint button to bring a brand new token into existence. Okay, the minting workflow is essentially a highly orchestrated two-step dance. Step 1 is the off-chain prepare phase. Before anyone even talks to the blockchain, your front-end server collects the metadata, checks if the user is allowed to be there, and grabs their cryptographic signature. Step 2 is the on-chain commit. This is where the magic happens. The Minter module takes that signature, rigorously enforces the policy, and if it's all good, it calls the ERC 1155 core to create the token. You prepare quietly off-chain and then commit on-chain in one atomic swoop. And by atomic, we mean it's an all-or-nothing deal. It either perfectly succeeds and updates everything at once or completely fails and reverts, no messy, half-finished state left behind. This strict division of labor is literally what saves you money and headaches. Notice how aggressively we separate off-chain pre-flight checks, things like signature verification, payment validation, and checking approvals, from the actual on-chain commit responsibilities. The on-chain commit is kept pure. It's strictly about state changes, catalog entries, and persistent ownership records. By doing all that heavy validation in the pre-flight phase, we save an absolute fortune in gas fees. And even better, if something fails in pre-flight, say a user doesn't have enough funds, it fails off-chain. It costs them zero gas and keeps our blockchain state totally pristine.
And speaking of saving users from a terrible experience, let's talk about future-proofing the user interface. A great architecture doesn't just protect the contracts, it actively protects the user. We absolutely must implement batch size limits for transfers, so transactions don't run out of gas mid-flight. We need to provide highly accurate off-chain gas cost estimates. We use secure escrow patterns for settlement and, crucially, nonce-sequencing. A nonce is basically giving every single user transaction a unique one-time ticket number, which completely prevents hackers from intercepting and replaying an old transaction to drain funds. Why do we go to all this trouble? So your front end can confidently warn users of a problem before their transaction ever hits the blockchain.
Because, let's be real, nothing makes a Web3 developer sweat more than a failed transaction, except maybe a catastrophic security flaw. So we list and mitigate expected failure modes right here on the drawing board. If we expect a gas limit failure from a whale transferring thousands of tokens, our mitigation is hard-coding bounded batch sizes. If we're terrified of metadata poisoning, where someone tries to inject malicious scripts into an NFT image, we mandate strict schema validation. Worried about unauthorized minting? Rigorous role delegation is the answer. We solve these existential crises today in the blueprint long before a single line of code goes to mainnet. Which brings us to the core philosophy of this entire explainer. As the quote says, separate persistent token state from mutable policy and business logic. This is the golden rule. Keep your ERC 1155 core as dumb and minimal as possible. Make it proxied. That just means setting up a smart routing system so you can upgrade the business logic without ever migrating the actual underlying data. Push all that complex, highly dangerous logic out to your adapter modules. This drastically reduces the blast radius of any bugs. If a marketplace adapter has a terrible flaw, you just disconnect it, and your core token balances, your actual library catalog, are completely untouched.
And just like that, your multi-token platform blueprint is fully drafted and ready to go. Just think about the peace of mind this gives you. No more spaghetti code, no more crossing your fingers when you deploy. With this clear component checklist, the strict interface sketches, and the foolproof workflow mapping we've covered today, you are completely equipped to tackle the capstone implementation. You can sit down and build out the ERC 1155 core, the Minter module, and the metadata registry with total clarity, knowing exactly how they speak to each other and with absolute confidence.
So, you've got the blueprint. You understand the trust boundaries. You know exactly how to mitigate the risks. The only question I have left for you is, are you ready to lay the first brick of your platform? This has been an incredibly fun dive into platform architecture, and it's the perfect, sturdy launchpad for your capstone project. Make sure to visit forge.college to learn more about this subject, explore our other amazing Web3 courses, and join a massive community of builders. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there. What are you going to build first? Happy building!